Welcome back. New overnight, the Senate passing the long-stalled $70 billion ICE and Border Patrol funding package. The vote, 52 to 47. All Democrats voted no. Again, they were joined by the lone Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski, who voted no along with the Dems. The package now heads to the House, where votes have been canceled for today. So that pushes the final passage to next week at the earliest. House Republicans reportedly eager to move quickly on the bill as they shift focus to a third reconciliation package, potentially as a follow-up to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Joining me now is Arkansas Congressman French Hill. He is the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee. Mr. Chairman, always a pleasure. Good to see you this morning. Thank you.
You bet, Maria. Great to be with you.
What are your expectations for the bill next week in the House now that the Senate has passed the funding for ICE and Customs and Border Patrol?
Well, I believe, as you say, this long-awaited day will see the House approve this bill. But I agree with my colleague Dave Schweikert you had on a few minutes ago that it's a terrible shame that we're using budget reconciliation to do something that we've already done in the budget appropriations process. And this is all due to the mismanagement of this issue by Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats that have tied up this spending now since last October, all in the face of demanding that we don't fund border security and don't fund immigration enforcement of the U.S. Can you imagine that? One of the best accomplishments of President Trump, which was securing our border and trying to remove criminal felons who are in the country illegally from the nation. So anyway, I expect we will approve it. That will complete funding. But I'm pleased to say that Tom Cole and Susan Collins are making good progress on appropriations for the next fiscal year. And we just will approve probably 7 of the 12 bills thus far. And we expect to have them all done before the semi-quincentennial celebration of the Declaration.
Wow, that is amazing. Before July 4th. The Senate, however, also blocked the procedural vote to renew FISA for 3 years. That's expected to expire in 1 week. Where does that go?
So important. So Rick Crawford of Arkansas, the chair of our Intelligence Committee in the House, and Tom Cotton, also from Arkansas, the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, have collaborated on a FISA bill. We were supposed to get the text last night to review over the weekend. We worked so hard on this, as you know, in the month of April, that I believe we can find consensus and get that passed and get that authorized to make sure the American citizens are protected by that important tool, FISA 702, which allows us to surveil foreigners who may be planning attacks against Americans at home or abroad.
Are there any plans to put the Save America Act in any of these bills?
I can't answer that question. We've passed that, as you know, several times on the House. It's been something, excuse me, something that the Senate has not taken up. Yeah. So I can't answer that question today.
I got you. All right. Mr. Chairman, let's talk digital assets. You've done such great work on digital assets and where financial services are going. And no doubt you saw Jamie Dimon's comments to me about the Clarity Act. He says he's going to fight it. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong responded to my interview with the J.P. Morgan Chase chairman and CEO Jamie Dimon. Here's how Dimon reacted when I brought up the Clarity Act. Watch this. Are you happy with the way the Clarity Act is turning out?
No. No, because it allows them to effectively pay interest on deposits, stable coins or something like that, without the protection that they should have. And it doesn't do anything for AML BSA. It has almost no legal protections. So no, the banks will not accept it that way. And the ABA, the small banks, the credit unions, it's not just the big guys. I'm not worried about stablecoin, but if it happened, I'm telling you, I would have nothing to do with it, and it would eventually blow up on its own. Okay, but that's my personal thing. But I do understand the concern of all the other banks. So,
well, the markup is coming. I mean, what are you going to do about it?
It is. We'll fight it. If we lose, we lose, and we'll live.
Yeah. Okay.
But it will be fought. This will not be. No one's going to bow down to this guy, okay, or that company. And he's the only one. Yeah. And he's spending hundreds of millions of dollars in Washington this thing.
Okay? He said he's representing the whole industry. So what do you want to say, Mr. Chairman? He says that Brian Armstrong is full of it. And Armstrong responded saying, well, it was kind of sad to hear Jamie Dimon say that. He told Politico that he believes the bill will be good for the banks. J.P. Morgan, Citi, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo, all the banks reportedly planning a new tokenized deposit system of their own to address crypto concerns. How do you see this?
Yeah, I've watched this over the last few months, Maria, of Brian Armstrong versus editorial comments from the big banks.
Yeah.
And I have to say thank you to Tim Scott and John Bozeman and the other senators that have worked to try to find a landing spot on this debate. Senators Tillis and Alsobrooks have worked greatly. In the House, we said that stablecoins would not pay interest. And that's still my position. It's a payment token. And I think the sales practices around a non-bank or bank issuer of a stablecoin should be handled in the regulatory process to implement Genius by the Treasury Department. This statutory language, which Tim Scott found a good compromise for in the Clarity markup, is a good starting spot that I think you can find consensus from by both the banks and the crypto exchanges, and I hope they do, because we need this bill. We need market structure, and I believe the banks, as you just noted, will be extremely competitive in this industry. I just don't have any doubt about that, because of the technology to tokenize deposits allows one to not even depend on a dollar-backed stablecoin here in a U.S.-type application.
And the banks talked about tokenizing just this week, and they are launching this network that will launch next year, operated under a company called the Clearinghouse. It allows tokenized deposits to move immediately across blockchain technology with 24/7 settlements. But, Mr. Chairman, what I think Jamie is upset about is he says that even though the language says that the crypto companies will not be able to pay rewards, there are some times, if you're a member of a certain program, that they will be able to pay the reward. So do you see that changing, or the way that the Clarity Act language is today is that will go forward regardless of whether the banks want to fight it or not?
Well, I think the banks are still looking for additional changes to that compromise Tillis-Alsobrooks language before the bill goes to the Senate floor. And we'll just have to work and see how it can be made better there. I know people on both sides of the aisle are committed to finding a landing spot, but I also think that the regulatory process through the Treasury is a way to handle sales practice concerns as well between a bank issuer and a non-bank issuer. And finally, I'd say, look, the banks will be very competitive in this industry if consumers and businesses demand the use of settlement, a payment settlement internationally or domestically through a blockchain on a 7-day, 24-hour-a-day basis. Our banking system is fully prepared to do that, and these recent announcements indicate that.
Now, here's what the president of ICBA said. Our analysis shows that Congress must extend the prohibition on payments of yield and interest on payment stablecoin holdings to crypto exchanges, affiliates, and other intermediaries. The role community banks serve is too important to risk. So you've talked about the community banks in the past with me as well. They're getting involved here and backing up the major banks' position on this as well.
That's right, but I've spoken to many community bank groups, and look, let me restate my position. I don't believe payment stablecoin tokens should pay yield. That's my position. But I also think that banks will, through their core processor, through their fintech partnerships, through their upstream correspondent banks, will be able to meet any demand for a blockchain-based tokenized payment that is far faster and more competitive with the ability of a dollar-backed stablecoin. So I really think the banks will end up being very competitive here. And banks know how to as you well know, organize compensating balances to pay for services and things of that nature.
That's
They're experts at packaging pricing. So I really believe this is a competitive market, and the big picture here is that we get a market structure bill that allows America to lead the world and innovate in blockchain technology and financial services.
There was a Treasury Department report in April that estimated that stable coins could lead to as much as a $6.6 trillion in deposit outflows. Now, I understand your position, and I understand that, this is what the banks are worried about. I don't know about this Treasury Department report, but this is this came to me from the major banks. And, of course, the top bank regulators testifying on Capitol Hill yesterday for their efforts to scale back banking rules and oversight in a bid to further deregulate. And I know that the banks are very happy with that. Do you think that's going to move the needle on growth and innovation, Mr. Chairman?
Well, I don't have any doubt that the Trump administration regulatory policies are increasing economic growth by fine-tuning and focusing our compliance regime and our supervision on safety and soundness instead of all these other sidebar issues like climate and DEI. That's having a direct report, and we're complementing that with the work we're doing in the House Financial Services Committee. We've passed significant community bank tailored compliance relief that we believe improves safety and soundness and focuses the system. We've passed a number of those bills across the House floor, and we hope to do more in June.
All right, we'll be watching your work, of course.
You bet.
Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thank you, sir.
You bet. Great to see you. Thanks, Maria.
All right, Chairman French Hill. We'll be right back.